Welcome to Informed Tourist. This is Curtis, your traveling guru. If you clicked on this video because of the title and thumbnail, then yep, you're in the right place. We're taking a deep, unfiltered look at a state that's often overlooked, a place that's as complex as it is beautiful. Today we're diving into New Mexico, a place that has more history, wine, and wide open space than it knows what to do with. It's got a nickname that promises magic, the Land of Enchantment, and a landscape that looks like it was painted by Georgia O'Keeffe herself. It's a state that should, by all accounts, be booming with new residents flocking in for a slice of that southwestern dream. But here's the kicker. Hardly anyone's moving here. While other states in the region like Arizona and Texas are bursting at the seams, New Mexico's population growth is practically stagnant. It's a puzzle, right? You've got breathtaking scenery, a rich cultural tapestry woven from Native American, Hispanic, and Anglo threads, and a cost of living that won't make your wallet weep. So why aren't people packing their bags and heading for the high desert? What's the hidden story behind the postcard-perfect sunsets and the aroma of roasting green chilies? The truth is, there's a flip side to the enchantment, a list of serious challenges that make potential newcomers hesitate. We're going to peel back the layers and explore the top 10 reasons why New Mexico isn't the population magnet you might expect it to be. And you'll want to stick with me until the end, because I'll reveal the real reason why 5,000 people actually did pack up and move here last year. And no, it's not just for the wine, though that wouldn't be the worst reason, would it? Let's get into it. Alright, let's get the toughest one out of the way first. When people are thinking about where to plant their roots, safety is almost always at the top of the list. And unfortunately, this is where New Mexico stumbles right out of the gate. We're not just talking about a few bad neighborhoods. We're talking about a statewide issue that's hard to ignore. The crime rate here isn't just a little high, it's more than twice the national average. That's a statistic that makes anyone, whether you have a family or live alone, pause and take a very deep breath before signing a lease or a mortgage. To put it in perspective, a recent Gallup poll revealed that a staggering number of New Mexico residents feel unsafe walking alone at night in their own communities. Think about that for a second. It's one thing to read a statistic on a screen, but it's another thing entirely to live with that feeling day in and day out. When the sun goes down, a sense of unease creeps in for many locals. This isn't just a big city problem either. It permeates towns large and small across the state, creating a persistent undercurrent of anxiety that can really wear on you over time. Now you might be thinking, Curtis, big cities always have crime. And you're right, but let's compare. The crime rate in Albuquerque, New Mexico's largest city, has at times been higher than in New York City, a place with millions more people packed into a much smaller space. It's a shocking comparison that highlights the scale of the problem. You expect certain challenges in a metropolis like NYC, but to see a smaller city in the Southwest struggling so intensely really puts the issue into sharp focus for potential residents doing their homework. The good news, if you can call it that, is that there are signs of progress. Recent data shows that violent crime rates are actually beginning to trend downward. State and local officials are pouring resources into new initiatives, and communities are banding together to reclaim their neighborhoods. However, perception often lags behind reality, and the state's reputation for high crime is a stubborn one. For anyone considering a move, the question remains, is the downward trend enough to feel secure? It's a significant hurdle that New Mexico has yet to fully clear. So, you've weighed the risks of crime and you're still intrigued by New Mexico. The next logical question is, can I find a job? This is where the southwestern dream can start to feel more like a mirage in the desert. For a long time, New Mexico has battled some of the highest unemployment rates in the entire country. It's been a persistent economic shadow hanging over the state, making it a tough place to build a career, especially if you're coming from a more dynamic and diversified job market. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Just like with crime, things are starting to look up. Recently, the state has seen some significant improvements, and unemployment has dropped to levels that are much more competitive with the rest of the nation. State leaders are working hard to attract new industries and create a more business-friendly environment. You'll see headlines about new tech startups in Albuquerque or film productions setting up shop around Santa Fe, And that does bring a sense of optimism. There's a feeling that the tide might finally be turning. But even with these positive developments, the reality on the ground is that the job market is still quite limited and highly specialized. If you're not looking for a job in a few specific sectors, you might find your search to be incredibly frustrating. The economy here heavily leans on government jobs. Think national labs and military bases, along with customer service, which often means lower-wage retail and hospitality positions. Then there's agriculture, a cornerstone of the state's heritage, but not exactly a booming sector for newcomers without specific skills. So, what does this mean for the average person looking to move? It means you have to be strategic. If your career is in tech, healthcare, or government research, you might find some fantastic opportunities. But if you're a marketing professional, a financial analyst, or work in a corporate field that thrives in big city headquarters, you'll discover that those kinds of jobs are few and far between. It creates a bottleneck, where the state's natural beauty and culture are a huge draw. But the lack of diverse, high-paying career paths acts as a major deterrent, keeping the population from growing. Let's talk about money, not just the money in your pocket, but the economic health of the state as a whole. Closely tied to the limited job market is another heavy issue that casts a long shadow over New Mexico poverty. This isn't just a talking point, it's a lived reality for a significant portion of the population. The state consistently ranks near the bottom in the United States for median household income. This means that, on average, families here are bringing home significantly less money than families in most other parts of the country. This low income level directly translates into one of the highest poverty rates nationwide. We're talking about a situation where nearly 1 in 5 residents lives below the poverty line. That has a ripple effect on everything, from the quality of public services to the resources available in communities. When you drive through certain parts of the state, both urban and rural, the economic struggle is visible. It's in the shuttered storefronts on Main Street and the homes that are in desperate need of repair. It creates a cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. This issue is also deeply intertwined with New Mexico's unique cultural history. The state is home to 23 federally recognized Native American tribes, and these communities are disproportionately affected by poverty. Generations of systemic inequalities and lack of economic opportunities on tribal lands have led to poverty rates that are often much higher than the state average. While these communities are rich in culture, tradition, and resilience, they face immense economic challenges that the state as a whole is still struggling to address effectively. For someone thinking about moving here, this economic landscape is a major factor. Even if you secure a decent job, the surrounding economic depression can impact your quality of life. It affects the tax base, which in turn affects funding for schools, roads, and parks. It can also create a sense of social despair that contrasts sharply with the state's Land of Enchantment motto. It's a complex and deeply rooted problem that doesn't have an easy solution, and it's a significant reason why many people, despite being drawn to the culture and scenery, ultimately decide to look elsewhere. Beyond the economic struggles, New Mexico is grappling with a serious public health crisis, and a major part of that is substance abuse. This is a sensitive topic, but it's a critical piece of the puzzle when we're trying to understand the challenges of living here. The state has the unfortunate distinction of leading the entire nation in alcohol-related deaths per capita. Let that sink in for a moment. More than any other state, the impact of alcohol abuse is devastating families and communities here, creating a cycle of trauma and loss that is felt across generations. This isn't just a statistic you read in a government report. It's a visible and tragic reality. The high rate of alcohol-related issues contributes to other problems we've already touched on, like crime, health issues, and economic instability. It puts an immense strain on the state's already limited healthcare and emergency services. For residents, it can mean witnessing the effects of addiction in their own communities, and for families, it can mean a constant worry about the environment their children are growing up in. It's a heavy burden for the state to carry, and it's not just alcohol. While marijuana is now legal for recreational use in New Mexico, as it is in many states, there are concerning trends among younger residents. The state has one of the highest rates of teen marijuana use in the country. While some may view this as a minor issue, public health experts worry about the long-term effects on adolescent brain development, academic performance, and mental health. It points to a broader environment where substance use is more normalized among young people, which is a major red flag for parents considering a move. When you combine these issues, the highest rate of alcohol-related deaths, and high teen substance use, it paints a picture of a state struggling with deep-seated public health challenges. It suggests a lack of resources for prevention, treatment, and mental health support. For anyone looking for a healthy and safe environment to raise a family, or simply to live a peaceful life, these statistics are alarming. They signal underlying issues of despair and a lack of opportunity that contribute to a cycle of abuse, making New Mexico a much harder choice for a new home. For any family with kids, or even for young people thinking about their future, the quality of the education system is a make-or-break factor. And this, unfortunately, is another area where New Mexico faces a monumental challenge. For years, the state's public school system has consistently been ranked dead last, or very close to it, in the entire country. That's not an exaggeration. It's a recurring headline in national education reports. We're talking about 50th out of 50 states. This ranking reflects a whole host of underlying problems. New Mexico struggles with some of the lowest high school graduation rates in the U.S. A large number of students are leaving the system without a diploma, which severely limits their future job prospects and perpetuates the cycle of poverty we just talked about. The issues are complex, stemming from underfunding, a shortage of qualified teachers, and the unique challenges of serving a vast, rural, and culturally diverse student population. Many schools lack the resources that are considered standard in other states. The state isn't blind to this crisis. Lawmakers and educators are desperately trying to turn the ship around. They've implemented various reforms and initiatives aimed at improving teacher pay, reducing class sizes, and providing more support for struggling students. But changing a system this entrenched is like trying to turn a massive cargo ship in a narrow canal. It's a slow, painstaking process. For parents looking at schools right now, the promise of future improvements doesn't solve the problem of what to do for their child's education today. Interestingly, New Mexico has tried to tackle the problem from the other end with a bold and progressive policy-free college tuition for residents. The New Mexico Opportunity Scholarship is one of the most generous programs in the country, covering tuition and fees at any in-state public college or university. It's a fantastic initiative aimed at creating a more educated workforce. But here's the paradox. What good is free college if the K-12 system isn't adequately preparing students to succeed once they get there? It's a classic chicken and egg problem that leaves many potential residents wondering if the educational gamble is worth taking. Okay, let's shift gears from the heavy social issues and talk about the land itself. When you picture New Mexico, what comes to mind? Probably vast open landscapes, dramatic mesas, and a sky that goes on forever. And you'd be absolutely right. The state's natural beauty is undeniable and is, without a doubt, one of its biggest selling points. From the surreal, snow-white dunes of White Sands National Park to the rugged peaks of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the scenery here is breathtakingly unique. But here's the thing about that beauty. It's a very specific flavor. The vast majority of New Mexico is classified as semi-desert or arid. If you're someone who loves lush green forests, rolling green hills, and an abundance of lakes and rivers, this might not be the place for you. It's a beauty that's stark, subtle, and demanding. It's the kind of place that teaches you to appreciate the different shades of brown and the resilience of a cactus flower. It's not for everyone, and some people find the endless expanse of brown to be monotonous or even isolating. The climate is also a mixed bag. People often assume New Mexico is scorching hot all year round, but that's a misconception. Because of its high elevation, the state actually has a surprisingly mild climate with 4 distinct seasons. Summers are warm and sunny, but not as brutally hot as, say, Phoenix. Winters, on the other hand, can be genuinely cold, with significant snowfall, especially in the northern mountains where you'll find popular ski resorts like Taos and Angel Fire. It's a climate of extremes. Dry air, intense sun, and big temperature swings from day to night. In a way, New Mexico is like an underrated indie band. It doesn't have the mainstream, commercial appeal of a place like Colorado with its towering green mountains, or California with its famous coastline. Its charm is quieter, more acquired. You have to be willing to look a little closer and appreciate its unconventional beauty. For some, this is exactly what they're looking for, a landscape that feels authentic and untouched. But for the majority of people who prefer more traditionally pretty scenery, New Mexico's starkness can be a visual barrier to entry. Let's talk about getting around and getting in and out. New Mexico is the fifth largest state in the United States by area. It is absolutely massive. But here's the catch. It has a population of just over 2 million people. That makes it one of the most sparsely populated states in the country. What this creates is what I call the tyranny of distance. Everything is spread out. A trip to the nearest major grocery store could be an hour-long affair if you live in a rural area. Seeing friends who live in another town isn't a quick drive. It's a day trip. This vast emptiness can be romantic and beautiful, as we just discussed, but it has very practical and sometimes frustrating consequences for daily life. The sense of isolation is real. While some people move here specifically for that solitude, many others find it difficult to adjust to. The lack of density means fewer amenities, fewer social opportunities, and a feeling of being disconnected from the wider world. If you're used to the convenience of having everything you need within a 15-minute drive, the New Mexico lifestyle requires a major mental adjustment. This sense of isolation extends to travel outside the state as well. You might think that being centrally located in the Southwest would make it a great travel hub, but that's not really the case. The Albuquerque International Sunport is the state's main airport, but it's not a major hub for any airline. This means fewer direct flights, more layovers, and often more expensive tickets. Getting from New Mexico to the East Coast, the Pacific Northwest, or even internationally, can be a long and costly endeavor. This travel challenge can be a huge drawback for people who have family in other parts of the country or who need to travel for work. It makes spontaneous weekend trips difficult and adds a significant financial and time cost to every vacation. You can't just hop on a cheap direct flight to anywhere you want to go. This island effect, where you feel geographically cut off, is a subtle but powerful reason why people who value connectivity and easy travel might cross New Mexico off their list of potential places to live. We talked about New Mexico's generally mild, four-season climate, but we need to zoom in on the extremes because when the weather here decides to get wild, it gets really wild. The state has a very distinct weather pattern that newcomers are often unprepared for. The most dramatic of these is the summer monsoon season. From roughly July to September, the weather pattern shifts, pulling moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific. This results in spectacular, but often violent, afternoon thunderstorms. These aren't your average rain showers. Monsoons can dump an incredible amount of rain in a very short period of time. Because the ground is so dry and hard, it can't absorb the water fast enough, leading to dangerous flash floods. A dry riverbed, known as an arroyo, can become a raging torrent in a matter of minutes. Every year, there are stories of cars being swept away and people needing to be rescued. It's a serious danger that requires constant vigilance during the summer months and fundamentally changes how you interact with the landscape. Then there's the wind. And with the wind comes the dust. New Mexico can be an incredibly windy place, especially in the spring. And when strong winds whip across the dry, open landscape, they can kick up massive dust storms known as haboobs. These are literally rolling walls of dust that can be miles long and thousands of feet high, engulfing everything in their path. They can reduce visibility to near zero, making driving incredibly hazardous. And they coat everything, your car, your house, your lungs, in a fine layer of grit. These extreme weather events have a real financial cost too. The risk of flash floods, hail from severe thunderstorms, and wind damage means that homeowners' insurance in New Mexico can be surprisingly expensive. insurers have to price in the risk of these frequent and damaging events. So, while the cost of housing might be lower, other costs associated with living in this environment can start to add up. For people unaccustomed to this kind of weather, the constant threat of floods and dust storms can be a major source of stress and a compelling reason to live somewhere a bit more predictable. A state's overall health is a reflection of its economy, environment, and access to care. And when you look at the health report card for New Mexico, the grades are not good. The state consistently finds itself ranked in the bottom tier for overall public health outcomes. This is a broad measure that includes everything from rates of chronic disease and obesity to mental health and mortality. It paints a grim picture of a population that is, on the whole, struggling to stay healthy. One of the most tragic statistics within this broader issue is the state's high suicide rate, which is often among the worst in the nation. This points to a deeper crisis in mental health, likely fueled by the poverty, substance abuse, and social isolation we've already discussed. It suggests a critical lack of access to mental health care services, especially in rural and underserved communities. For anyone moving to the state, especially those who may need or want access to therapy or psychiatric care, this is a deeply concerning reality. A huge part of the problem is the simple lack of access to healthcare in general. Remember how spread out everything is? That applies to doctors and hospitals too. Outside of the main cities like Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Las Cruces, it can be incredibly difficult to find medical specialists. Many people in rural parts of the state have to drive for hours just for a routine checkup or to see a specialist. This lack of access means preventative care often gets neglected, and health problems can become more severe before they are treated. All of these factors, high rates of chronic disease, substance abuse, mental health crises, and limited access to care, add up to a sobering outcome: a lower life expectancy. On average, people in New Mexico live shorter lives than people in many other states. While the beautiful landscape might seem like the perfect backdrop for a long and healthy life, the underlying systemic health challenges tell a different story. It's a sobering fact that forces potential residents to weigh the state's enchanting quality of life against some very stark health realities. Finally, let's talk about the very foundation of a functioning state: its infrastructure. This is the stuff we often take for granted. Clean water coming out of the tap, smooth roads to drive on, and sturdy bridges to cross. In New Mexico, these basic foundations are showing serious signs of wear and tear. Decades of underfunding and the challenges of maintaining infrastructure across such a vast, sparsely populated area have taken their toll, creating daily frustrations and even potential dangers for residents. Let's start with something fundamental: water. While some cities have decent water systems, many communities, particularly in rural and tribal areas, struggle with water quality issues. Contamination from old mining operations, agriculture, and failing pipes is a persistent problem. In some places, residents can't drink the water from their own taps and have to rely on bottled water for drinking and cooking. This is a basic quality of life issue that is simply unacceptable in a developed nation, and it's a reality for far too many New Mexicans. Then there are the roads. If you've ever taken a road trip through New Mexico, you might have noticed that the pavement can get pretty rough the moment you cross the state line. The state has a reputation for having some of the worst maintained roads in the country. Potholes, cracks, and crumbling shoulders are common, making for a bumpy and sometimes dangerous ride. This isn't just an annoyance. It causes extra wear and tear on vehicles, leading to higher maintenance costs for residents. In fact, one particular stretch of highway in New Mexico has earned a rather infamous title. A segment of Interstate 25, the main north-south artery through the state, was once rated as the single worst road in all of America by a National Transportation Research Group. Think about that, the worst road in the entire country. When the basic infrastructure for transportation is in that kind of shape, it sends a powerful message about the state's priorities and its ability to invest in its own future. It's a crumbling foundation that makes it harder for people to choose to build their lives here. So, after hearing about the crime, the struggling job market, the poverty, and the crumbling roads, now you're probably thinking, Curtis, Why on earth would anyone move here? It's a fair question. The list of drawbacks is long and serious. And yet, the numbers show that people do come. Well, despite all the drawbacks, 5,000 people did last year. And here's why. For a certain type of person, New Mexico offers treasures that are hard to find anywhere else. There's the jaw-dropping natural beauty of the mountains, the otherworldly desert plateaus, and the pure white sands. It's a landscape photographer's absolute dream. Then there's the soul of the place. Cities like Santa Fe and Taos are bursting with a unique blend of art, food, and living history that you just can't replicate. It's an adventurer's paradise, with endless opportunities for hiking, skiing, and even hot air ballooning against that iconic blue sky. Speaking of the sky, New Mexico has some of the clearest, darkest skies in the United States, making it a stargazer's dream. And of course, the food and wine, from the fiery heat of authentic green chili to the surprisingly sophisticated local wines, the culinary scene is a vibrant adventure in itself. And here's that promised reward I told you about at the start. The real reason many people still choose New Mexico isn't jobs or schools, it's peace. For those burned out on crowded cities, the noise, the traffic, and the relentless hustle, the vast space and slower pace of life here feel like freedom. It's the ability to see the stars at night, to breathe clean air, and to live in a place with a deep, quiet soul. And that's something you can't put a price on. It's an intangible quality that, for the right person, outweighs all the tangible negatives. So, what about you? Could you handle the crime, the roads, and the dust storms if it meant sipping wine under a sky full of stars? Or would you pass on New Mexico's enchantment and head somewhere else? Drop your thoughts below, and while you're at it, tell me which place you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching Informed Tourist. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It's free and supports the channel. Now enjoy these next videos.